Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Wednesday, May 12th, 2021, and today we're going to be taking a look at Republican Sean Parnell, a candidate for United States House in 2020 that lost to Representative Conor Lamb, who became big within the Democratic Party after winning a special election in the 2018 year. Sean Parnell is now going on to run for United States Senate in the open seat, which was, and currently is, Pat Toomey's seat that will possibly single-handedly determine Senate control. Now, 2022 is in about a year and a half from now, that election that's going to be occurring, and many people have already announced that they are running for Senate. But on the Republican side, I would say the most notable one so far is Sean Parnell. He's already gotten the endorsement of Donald Trump Jr. and got the wholehearted endorsement of President Trump in the 2020 election, and I truly believe, as it stands currently, that he might get a lot more endorsements from members of the Trump wing of the Republican Party. In addition, he spoke at the Republican National Convention in 2020, so he's going to do well in fundraising. He is going to be a name that is going to be propped up by the GOP, and especially once he becomes, or if he becomes the Republican nominee, we will see likely a very competitive race that will remind us a lot of the 2020 election between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Sean Parnell will be a version of Donald Trump, as we've seen happen in a lot of states. This is a reoccurring theme here across the Senate candidates on the GOP side, that many of them embody President Trump and are just running in certain states, competitive ones at that. We see a number of potential bids in Arizona and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin from some Republicans who might want to be the next Donald Trump or continue his legacy. Ron Johnson hasn't officially announced whether or not he's running for 2022, but based off of the potential list, many of those candidates or potential ones will likely try to become the next version of Donald Trump. And the reason for that is because Trump is very popular within the GOP. He is the one person that the GOP will listen to, will follow to the end of time even. And Sean Parnell is a continuation of this Trump wave that is taking over the GOP more than it did even under his presidency. Because at least when Donald Trump was president, the Democratic Party had Republicans in Congress they could work with. Standing here today, the House of Representatives and the Senate has become more and more pro-Trump. Those Republicans that were elected before Trump had no reason to listen to him until now, because he's out for blood. He's out for those representatives that voted to impeach him, the ones who speak out against him, the ones who acknowledged the election as being legitimate. So many things have come out from Donald Trump's office about opposition to rhinos, Republicans in name only, and that has been fueling a lot of the anti-establishment Republican sentiment. Now, Sean Parnell is certainly going to advertise himself as an outsider type of Republican. In 2022, we are going to see a very competitive race, and the Democrats honestly have a pretty strong candidate list. Now, we might actually get a repeat of the 2020 House election in Pennsylvania's 17th district or 17th district now, because of redistricting. And that's with Conor Lamb, who ran in that House race against this exact person. Sean Parnell actually just hasn't updated his website. It does say for United States Senate, but if you type in Sean Parnell on Google, you will actually get a link to this website that under the description box says, "Vote Sean Parnell for United States Congress." So this is a very recent announcement. Actually was fueling speculation that he might not be running over the past few days. I believe he's received some criticism from top Democrats, and he even said in a tweet a day ago saying that I'm not even running for, or 2 days ago, saying that I'm not even running for United States Senate, yet I'm being vilified as if I am. And then, of course, just hours later, sort of builds this website and builds this campaign for Senate in 2022. Now, at the beginning of the video, I mentioned how I truly believe that the Pennsylvania Senate race might actually determine party control. And if you look at my current projection, Pennsylvania is crucial in keeping the Democrats above the majority at 51-49. Now, the reason why I think that it could determine Senate control is because the Democratic Party will have equally as much of a fight in Pennsylvania as they do in Georgia. But I would say, based off historical analysis, Pennsylvania is more likely to go to the Democrats, especially in a midterm year. Georgia might go to a Republican or Arizona, and Pennsylvania could counteract that loss. If Pennsylvania does go blue, the Democratic Party will be in a positive position. But if the GOP is able to hold on to Pennsylvania and flip a state such as Georgia or Arizona, I don't know if I said Michigan. I remember saying Michigan for whatever reason, but if I didn't say it, then I apologize. Just slipped into the back of my head. But Pennsylvania, if it remains red, could also hand the Republicans the Senate majority. Yes, of course, Georgia would have to flip, but Pennsylvania, I think, is the best opportunity for either side in terms of overall pickups, at least as it stands today. My analysis might change if Chris Sununu decides to run in New Hampshire, or Ron Johnson decides to not run in Wisconsin, or if someone else enters into the Florida Senate race, or, Florida actually not even really a discussion, so let me take that out of the equation, just look for a random state to bring up. But, things can change as the races start to evolve, but for right now, I would say Pennsylvania has a better chance of going to the Democrats than Georgia does at going to the Republicans. But I would say that the chances there are, I still see how the GOP can win Georgia, and I can still see how the Democrats can win Pennsylvania. Neither of those are out of reach whatsoever. I think those are very real possibilities at the end of 2022. Just based off where Raphael Warnock stands today in terms of popularity, I'm confident to say he will likely win re-election as it stands today. We're talking May 2021. Things can change. But for Pennsylvania, Sean Parnell, being the Republican, is going to take up this announcement as more of a front-runner type of status. Receiving the endorsement from Donald Trump Jr. does sort of tell me a little bit about what Donald Trump is going to do. Because Donald Trump Jr. actually was potentially going to run in this Senate race. Now, he didn't fuel the speculation himself, but many members of the right-wing media said that he should run. Someone who has the Donald Trump name, someone who can continue the Trump legacy, should run for Senate across the nation. Laura Trump in North Carolina, Donald Trump Jr. in the state of Pennsylvania, some type of Trump, Ivanka Trump in the state of Florida. The Democratic Party would love for that to happen, largely because they know Trump lost the election in 2020. But they might just get that with Sean Parnell. Because with that one endorsement from Donald Trump Jr., that is a more notable endorsement, at least amongst the Trump wing in Pennsylvania, than the Sebastian Gorka one for Kathy Barnett, or the Vernon Jones one, or the Burgess Owens ones, or the Tomi Lahren one. Looking at Donald Trump Jr.'s endorsement, I think it gives us a little bit of an idea of who Donald Trump might want to endorse. This might be more of a testing the waters type of thing, considering he only recently announced this endorsement must have been planned out. But amongst those who have publicly expressed interest, you do have some moderately recognizable names. And I'm sure since it's an open race, Sean Parnell will not be without a strong primary opponent. He might not even be the Republican nominee. But I think that we are seeing the second coming of President Trump in the state of Pennsylvania, and it's going to possibly benefit the Democratic Party. While the Democratic Party didn't win Pennsylvania in the 2016 election, they did well in 2020 relative to 2016. They were able to win it by a little bit larger than Donald Trump did in 2016, and it was a flip back. It was a state that had gone to the Republican Party for the first time, I think, since 1988. Let's see if that's true. 1988, yes. Went to George H.W. Bush by 2.3%. And then fast forward to 2016, the Republicans win it by 0.72%. Trump had a pretty significant outperformance compared to Mitt Romney across the Rust Belt, and Pennsylvania was certainly a state that moved significantly. Now, if you're looking at Pennsylvania in the 2020 election, Joe Biden won it by 1.2%. That means that it's already at a disadvantage for the GOP. And if you're looking at the last time this race was open, it was still pretty close. Pat Toomey, the incumbent senator here now, only won by 2 points. 2010 was a phenomenal year for the GOP. Let me show you what happened. On this ballot, the Republican Party picked up 63 seats in the House of Representatives. 63 seats. For reference, the Democrats only picked up 40 back in 2018. 63 was unheard of. The Senate also saw some monumental gains for the GOP, a net gain of 5. They needed 10. Because the Democrats had nearly a 60-seat majority, they needed 10. But gaining 5 isn't too shabby. They picked up the state of Pennsylvania, but only by a narrow amount. Joe Sestak very well could have won this race. This was a winnable race, but the Democrats failed. Roll around to 2016, on the same ballot Donald Trump wins Pennsylvania, maybe Pat Toomey wins by a lot. No, he wins by 1.5%, and if you look at the 2016 election result in Pennsylvania, Donald Trump actually receives just narrowly less than what Pat Toomey does. The point was that Katie McGinty won less than Hillary Clinton. Pat Toomey outperformed Donald Trump by 0.2%. So while Pat Toomey won by double the margin, his percentage of the vote wasn't actually that much higher. It just meant Katie McGinty lost more voters, potentially to third-party candidates or to Pat Toomey, but the main takeaway is that Pat Toomey didn't actually significantly outperform Donald Trump. And, when you're looking at the 2016 numbers, I honestly expected Pat Toomey to have some type of strong election, either 2010 or 2016. 2010, you would have expected it. Based off the Republican Party's performance nationwide, you should have expected it. But it didn't happen. Fast forward to 2016, he only narrowly holds on to his re-election despite the state getting more conservative by 6 to 7 points relative to 2012. Had this been a type of state that voted for Hillary Clinton the same way it did for Barack Obama, we would be talking about Katie McGinty being possibly re-elected in the state of Pennsylvania. Pat Toomey only won because President Trump was able to narrow up the state. And now he's leaving with an unpopular view amongst the GOP, which means his endorsement likely won't hold much weight. But since he voted to convict President Trump and has been a critic of President Trump since that vote, we will likely see President Trump feel of it being the utmost importance for him to hold a very big weight and a very big stake on this race because of the senator that's here. Because of Pat Toomey being the incumbent, Donald Trump is certainly going to look at that and say, I want to make sure that my voice is heard in this Senate race, that who I want to be the next senator does become the next senator. Whether that's through funding through the Save America PAC, whether that's through funding through Donald Trump's personal expenses, whether that's just through support given behind him, rallies, campaigning, ads, etc. President Trump has a vendetta against Pat Toomey, and while he can't get him directly, he's going to try to do everything he can to hold some type of weight on this race. And considering Sean Parnell, someone who is pretty much, unelected in its entirety, yet had a speaking spot at the RNC in 2020 for a congressional race. I mean, that congressional race did not need that RNC attention. I'll tell you that much. Sean Parnell is likely going to be this continuation of President Trump's legacy if he can have it in the state of Pennsylvania. And it could very well determine Senate control. Because if Pennsylvania goes to the Republicans, they will likely be doing well in other states. Pennsylvania probably won't go red on the same time Georgia goes blue. They will probably vote well together. Either Pennsylvania's going red and Georgia's going, actually, I think it's possible that Pennsylvania does go red and Georgia goes blue. But that's only if, there's a super poor candidate on the Democratic side and Raphael Warnock gets a super poor Republican candidate. But, that is a possibility. But for right now, I do think that, Pennsylvania would be a very good opportunity for Democrats to pick up. But if Pennsylvania is going red, it might tell us another story about some of these other states. Pennsylvania is going to be a critical state because in the past two midterm elections, either Pennsylvania went narrowly to the Republicans or overwhelmingly to the Democrats. And while 2022 isn't expected to be this blue wave year, it's not expected to be a red wave year either, at least as it stands currently. The Senate is probably going to be better for the Democratic Party, at least where it stands now. Democrats are having the advantage in Georgia, Arizona, and Pennsylvania, a state that they hadn't won in 2016. So if anything, the Democrats currently are poised to pick up one seat, meaning Joe Manchin's threats and lack of support probably won't matter after this Pennsylvania Senate race. So Sean Parnell entering into it makes this race a little bit more interesting. Because we know exactly, who Donald Trump Jr. is supporting, we can get a general idea of who, else is going to support Sean Parnell. In addition, based off the potential list for the Democrats, we have Connor Lamb, the representative who ran against Sean Parnell in Pennsylvania's 17th district. And it actually was much closer than it was back in 2018. So just looking at the congressional districts in Pennsylvania, looking at the representative race in Pennsylvania, Sean Parnell actually did pretty well. But do I think that will translate to a general election victory? Probably not. He was with Donald Trump throughout almost the entirety of the election, spoke at the RNC, campaigned with President Trump, even went so far as to say that the election was essentially rigged, backing President Trump's baseless claims of election fraud that the 17th congressional district's election was rigged. That, Connor Lamb did not legitimately win this House race, pretty much reiterating the same point as President Trump. Well, rarely we would see swing state Republicans try to tackle onto this idea because typically speaking, swing state districts weren't with this idea that President Trump was going to be the Republican nominee. And sorry, that was hand sanitizer. But, if you're looking at the Pennsylvania 17th race, you're going to notice that it was a legitimate race. It was a race that was fairly won by Connor Lamb. And this claim only puts Sean Parnell in a position where, in a position where he is going to be viewed in the same light as President Trump, where swing state voters are going to say, why would we elect a Republican who says the election was rigged? Why would we choose someone who said that Pennsylvania had an election where not all of the legal votes were counted or there were illegal votes? Fueling into this idea that the election was rigged only hurt Sean Parnell moving forward and will only hurt him in 2022. So while this does make the race, sort of give us a general idea of who's going to be running, we know it's not going to be Donald Trump Jr., we know it's going to be someone like Sean Parnell, someone like President Trump, we know who's getting early endorsements, we can get a general idea of what to expect in 2022 in Pennsylvania, because this will likely be one of the most important Senate races of our 2022 midterm elections. And while I would like to say that, I'm personally excited, I can tell you both parties are having a lot of stress about this race in particular, because it can single-handedly determine Senate control, whether more benefit for the Democrats or whether the GOP might be able to hold on to a state that, yes, they have the incumbent in now, but won't have the immediately following election victory. It's just going to be difficult for Republicans to hold on to this race as it stands currently, especially with a candidate like Parnell. But if they're able to do it, it might spell out better news for Trump-like candidates and for other Senate races in the same election day. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the bottom left of the screen, there's also a Discord server for you to go ahead and join. On the screen, there's a video you can watch and then a playlist for my 2022 midterm election analysis videos. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all tomorrow.